Warm welcome. He is going to come on and share some great information here.
All right. Hey, everyone. Hope you all are having a great nonprofit ad day so far. My name is Jake Stowers here. I am a digital supervisor over here at Community Boost. Hope you enjoyed Emily's presentation that was right before mine. And in this presentation, as Giorgio said, we are going to dive very deep on leveraging the Google Ads platform for all of its channels. In this presentation, we're going to cover how to execute a well-rounded remarketing campaign. So if you've not done remarketing before, we are going to dive in pretty deep here, and we've got a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and jump in. As Giorgio said, we have done a lot for several nonprofits using a multitude of strategies. We would love to be able to meet with you and talk about which is the best fit for you as far as approach, either on the advertising or organic side. Again, my name is Jake Stowers, and today we're going to be talking about closing the donor loophole using Google Ads remarketing. So, first question we have here is remarketing part of your current strategy? If so, are you or no, you haven't tried remarketing and you're looking to understand how it can support your organization's growth? So a few questions we have for you here, but I do want to keep on rolling. Let's talk about remarketing, what its role is in the funnel, who should be seeing remarketing ads, when should you be utilizing remarketing ads, what should these remarketing ads consist of, how should you approach the strategy overall, what's different about remarketing that you're doing already from cold, and then overall, why Google Ads? So there's so much we can do on the Google Ads platform. We're going to dive into the specific channels and exactly how to utilize them. And then we're going to wrap up with what is the future of the Google Ads platform as it pertains to remarketing. So jumping in here, remarketing's role is to use your current advertising or leveraging your traditional advertising, word of mouth, whatever it might be, to move a user further down the funnel. So if you have not been exposed to the remarketing funnel, essentially it starts with awareness, just generating the concept in your target audience's mind that you exist out there in the world. And then after that has been achieved, you want to move that user further down the decision-making or buying process by having them consider engaging with your organization. Once they have done so, you are going to seek to really move them to close the deal and take that action, and that would be in the conversion step of the marketing funnel. And then finally, the marketing funnel doesn't end after users converted. They do want to understand that you care about them, this is the right fit, and you can go even further by just generating that loyalty for your organization. And from that loyalty, really the marketing funnel repeats again. You have word of mouth referrals, and when someone refers to you, their organization to another customer, then that's how the customer becomes aware. So media buying is all generated from the principle of reach. How many users are exposed to your messaging, and frequency. How many times did your brand come across their mind? And so with remarketing, we are really seeking to amplify that frequency and capture the people who have been aware of your brand to move them further down the funnel. So that frequency is what's going to drive that consideration and ultimately drive that conversion and even further go into that loyalty stage of the funnel. So we're going to talk about who actually gets to see these remarketing ads. There are a few different types of users you can think about. So traditionally, if you have done any type of advertising, you're probably going to be aware of a cold user. This is a user who's just not aware of you, and the goal of your advertising is to just become part of that awareness to move further down into their consideration set when it's time for them to make a decision. So we're not so much going to be talking about these cold users because there's a completely different type of strategy and approach to generate that awareness. Or more so today, going to be talking about the warm and hot users. So the warm users, they're aware, they're engaged with you, And then the hot users are the ones who have taken a step to provide some sort of meaningful engagement, some sort of information to say, hey, I'm interested in what you have to offer, but they haven't taken that final step. They haven't made that donation. They haven't signed up to volunteer. So we're mostly today going to be talking about how to approach warm and hot users to get them to take that final step to close that loophole. So who gets to see remarketing ads? Not everyone gets to qualify for, your remarketing budget is probably going to be finite, and you want to be not showing ads to the whole population. So you do want to segment who gets to see your ads by that level of engagement. We talked about warm users and hot users. The hot users are really the ones you want to go for if you have just a certain amount of budget and you're like, who should see our remarketing ads? Should it just be anyone? No, it should be those users who have already raised their hand and shown a meaningful level of interest in your organization. So you don't want to invest in the same people over and over again if they haven't really taken the action to show that investment is really warranted. So those hot users are going to be really the best users to target. And you do want to factor in the economics of, okay, how much does it cost to get a cold user? Remember, this is a user who's not aware of me before. How much does it cost to get those users to take that final step in the process? Versus how much does it take to take those engaged users and have them complete the final step in the process? So there is that kind of trade-off on economics. Every company has a different allocation of how much should we spend on cold, how much should we spend on remarketing. So that is something you're going to want to factor. And if you really are wanting to go for the cream of the crop here, it's going to be those hot users, driving them to take that final step. So when should you actually approach these users with your messaging on a paid advertising campaign? So you will, as a best practice, want to go ahead and set up your remarketing audiences right now. If you are thinking, hey, in some point in the future, I would like to do remarketing, set up those audiences now. We're going to advocate that you set those audiences up with two considerations in mind. One is the recency. So how long ago was it that they engaged with you? 30, 60, 90 days? If it is a more of a fast-paced type of decision-making process, it might make sense if you have the volume to set up remarketing audiences for users who have engaged in the last 1, 7, 14, 21 days. If you're not going to go and take the time to set up all of these remarketing audiences that I'm referring to now, and you might have some time to set up just one, my vote is going to be setting up an audience for users who have engaged in the last 540 days. It goes back a long time, but this is the largest audience for remarketing that Google is going to allow you to create. This audience is going to be eligible to serve because you do need to have a certain volume of users in each audience. So this 540-day audience is going to be the first one that reaches that capacity where Google says, okay, you've got enough users here. Let's start allowing you to show ads to these remarketing audiences. So takeaway here, if you're only going to set up one audience, set it up for any audience who's engaged in the last 540 days. So that is going to be one criteria when you go to set up your remarketing audience. The second one is that level of engagement. How far down the process did they go? So if you do want to approach this strategically, that's going to allow you to slice and dice who gets to see the ad, what messaging they get. The recommendation here is set up audiences based off of recency, when did they engage, and depth. How far down the funnel did they go? So 2 takeaways here on what audiences should I set up. So let's say you've set up these audiences and you understand who gets to see the ads based off of their engagement and their recency. Well, what should you show them? For remarketing ads, the strategy is going to be different than your cold ads. Your cold ads are going to be probably more broad-based, more general, exposing what it is your organization does or who they help. That is on the cold side. Now, on the remarketing side, it's like, okay, I get it. I understand who you all are. Now, why or how should I work with you or volunteer with you or donate to you? So how exactly does your nonprofit achieve its mission? So another good vehicle for remarketing to tell and answer that is testimonials. Testimonials can really put the user in the shoes of the people who are being helped by your nonprofit. They can give great perspective, a great emotional connection. So testimonials are fantastic for remarketing. And you are going to want to just think about what has the user engaged with. So what messaging have they been exposed to, and then build off of that. That's going back to the recency and how deep do they go. Just thinking about, okay, maybe if they did see my advertising 500 days ago, they might need to be reminded about what it is you do, versus if they saw an ad 7 days ago or they engaged with you 7 days ago, build off of that. You don't need to really rehash all of that messaging. So this is covering what, in terms of content messaging, you should be using for your remarketing. So how should you really go about this? One thing is, on the cold ad side, they've already been exposed to this messaging. So can I technically use these same cold ads to drive a user further down the funnel? You could. If you really didn't have any other creative and you wanted to think back on the principles of media buying, that frequency, you could use one of the same ad creatives you're using on the cold side as a remarketing ad. You definitely could, but here is the suggestion: that you create a new experience for them. So just keeping in mind, they've already been exposed to your messaging. Let's build on it. You could get moderate results. Let's say if you use the same cold ad for remarketing, but what the definition of insanity is trying to repeat the same thing and expecting different outcomes. So if the cold ad was not the vehicle to get them to convert, do we really expect them to convert by showing them that ad again and again? To a degree, but the effectiveness is going to kind of wane off here. The recommendation being, show them a brand new creative. They haven't seen it before. And get them to take action by, okay, wow, I hadn't considered this messaging you have. Now, this is next the place where I see most advertising fall flat. We've worked so hard on targeting, so hard on our advertising. Where do we send them when they click on an ad? Right on back to that same page that they just went to and didn't convert from before? No, that is really not the approach that I would suggest taking. I would suggest really curating a brand new experience for them. So let's say you are going to be on board with creating some new ads for them. When you send them to that landing page after they click, send them to a different landing page. Don't send them to the same landing page and expect for this time to be the one that converts them. They saw the messaging, most likely. If you're targeting those hot users, they've already seen it on the landing page and it didn't get them to take that action. So show them a different landing page that, again, builds off of that previous exposure. Tweak the messaging, talk more about how, include testimonials. That would be the ideal scenario for approaching your remarketing, is a whole new experience. Remind them why it was they were interested in you in the first place. So let's go over to Google Ads. Why Google Ads? Google Ads has so many benefits in the continuity, where if you're exposed through ads on search, which is when someone goes on google.com, or on display, which is when a user goes onto a website, or on YouTube, which is when a user is looking at content on the YouTube platform, you have that continuity to reach that same user through multiple channels, multiple touch points, through different creative. Again, creating that frequency that moves them down. You have control over your messaging. Who gets to see the ad? What duration? Which pages were they engaged with? The creative here, sky is the limit for creative adaptation on Google Ads. You can use textual-based ads, strictly visual with no audio-based ads, and then finally, kind of the cream of the crop here is video ads, which we'll get into. The cost here really works out so that you can really limit that frequency. You can exclude people who have already converted. You can be also charged on a few different principles where on one type of ad, you are only going to get billed if a user actually clicks on it, meaning you can rack up lots and lots of free impressions. Just, hey, if someone does not click on this ad, but they get exposed to your brand, that's free. There's other types of ways you can be billed from Google Ads depending on your engagement. There's the type of ad where you can only pay if your user watches on YouTube 30 seconds or more of your ad. That might have a piece of the strategic puzzle here, but there are a lot of options on finding the best fit for you. Probably one of my favorite types of ways to be billed is in a display pay-per conversion campaign, where you set that particular conversion that you're looking for. You tell Google, hey, if we can get this conversion at this cost, give me these all day long, and you only get billed when a user actually converts. So definitely an interesting strategy to utilize, but there are a lot of options over here for you all. So this is just a reminder that we can help talk you through all of these strategies. Which is the best fit? What's the best mix? Is it search, display, YouTube? Where should we start? Traditionally, I would say if you're already on search, I would go to a display remarketing campaign as the second step. We can talk about why display is going to be a good entry into the remarketing world. But overall, if you would like to hear more, we can absolutely curate a strategy that works for your organization. And let's just jump into that Google Display. So Google Display, so awesome because it can, again, really only charge you for some different types of campaigns. It can just charge you on when a conversion is achieved. It can also bill you on the pay-per-click model. There's a lot of different ways that you can run on terms of bidding strategy, a display campaign, and that is a huge advantage from other channels. It has a lot of flexibility and does not require a lot of creative, where you're going to go need a designer now and you're going to need to go take photography. So it's got a good ease of messaging, a lot of bidding, ability to adapt to whatever strategy you're looking for on the billing side. And then the size here, huge advantage. Where on YouTube, you need 1,000 users in any audience to be able to start remarketing. That can be a lot of users. Now on display, however, you only need 100. So a lot easier to achieve. If any user, if any audience you're setting up reaches 100 users, that's eligible. You can start remarketing to that audience. So another good thing about remarketing on display is that you can layer targeting. That means, okay, not only did a user get engaged with this page on my website, but now they're looking at web content around this certain topic. That means they're primed to take action. And so this is where I want to make sure that I want my ad to be present. So they've already engaged and they're looking at content that's similar to my mission. Let's show them a remarketing ad. So that is absolutely on the table for display remarketing. Just showing some different types of creative here. So on display, you can use image ads, which you can see here on the bottom. You need to build those ads in certain sizes, and it's really up to whatever website you're running these ads on if they actually have this size available to show your ad. So this one is probably not the number one recommendation I would make, is to use an image ad. I would actually use what's shown here at the top, which is a responsive display ad. This ad type, you really just feed it an image. You don't need any text on that image. You feed it copy. It will resize that image and that copy depending on whatever spot a website has available. It can do a lot, and dozens of different sizes with that for really minimal effort on your part. So it even has stock photography you can use. It can pull from your social media platforms or websites. Really seamless, easy to get set up and running with the display remarketing campaign using these responsive ads. So That's definitely a benefit. You know how it works. You can layer it. You can have different bidding options. There's different types of targeting that you can layer on there. Just one kind of tip here is watch out for mobile apps, mobile applications on your phone, like a weather app or something like that. You might get a lot of accidental clicks. So I might actually exclude mobile applications if you're going to run a display remarketing. So just a little tip there. Now, YouTube. YouTube is actually one of, if not the easiest channel to run ads on for Google Ads. But there's a lot to cover in terms of how to execute on that strategy. So let's just jump in. What are the benefits of using YouTube? You've got a user focus. They're over on YouTube to engage with video content. You've got their attention. And so you're able to really capture their attention so they can be more receptive of your messaging. You can tell a story and make just a more emotional connection with a video ad than you can from a search-based ad or an image ad that doesn't have any audio or any real rotating scenes. So usually with that emotional connection that you're creating, the conversion rate, meaning when someone clicks on that ad, they're more likely to take that action because you've touched them in an emotional way that really stands apart from other types of channels on Google Ads. So the last benefit, I mean, there's a lot, but just trying to keep it, high level here. A benefit here is different options on bidding. I absolutely love one of the bidding options that Video Campaigns has where you set, all right, here's what my goal is, Google Ads. And if we're not getting users to convert at this number, you'll actually see your YouTube ads stop spending. You can actually see the algorithm working towards what it is you as an advertiser are seeking. And if it can't deliver that, unlike other platforms, let's say Facebook, for instance, where it will spend your budget all day, every day, regardless of the return you're getting, over on YouTube, there's a campaign type that will allow you to set what it is you're looking for. And if it's not getting that, it stops spending. That can be frustrating here for, those of us folks who are trying to work with the algorithm and really find out what that, good equilibrium is to get the campaigns to spend, but also achieve your goals. But it's also just so great that it's not going to just take your budget and run. It's actually working for you as an advertiser. So, and I mentioned there's another type of campaign where you only pay if a user watches for 30 seconds or more on your video. That's an option. Maybe not my first go-to, but there's a lot of options over on YouTube. There's two types of ads, which you'll see them. One is the in-feed ad that looks so much like any other video that you see on YouTube, which is great because it doesn't just kind of scream, hey, this is an ad. And it really blends in with that platform natively to just, if you've taken the time to create a good ad that's relevant to the user, it can be so really connecting to a user to just be able to watch your video without that obtrusive type of ad feeling. The in-feed ad can show on the search page, the home page, and the watch next suggestions. So there are some really good ways for you to present your brand in a more native, less obtrusive way. There's also on the right-hand side a skippable ad, which is probably the ad type we're most familiar with because the skippable ad on YouTube has been around for years and years and years, where you are showing your ad to a user, but they're not locked in for, after 5 seconds, they can skip it. So it's not really kind of forcing them to watch it, which can really be a turnoff for some users. So a lot of, flexibility between in-feed ads, skippable ads. Now, the barrier to entry over here on YouTube is, I think, something that a lot of advertisers kind of trip themselves up over, thinking that they need David Ogilvy to write their copy. They need Michael Bay to direct all their videography. You don't need, the Harmon brothers to write just some really punchy one-liners for you. Really what you do need is to capture the user's attention. So why should they be interested in you? Tell them just a little bit about who you are. And then I've got it listed here, A, B, C, D, E. The C stands for connection. This is making an emotional connection between me, the advertiser, and you, the user. Why do you want to support us? Why would it benefit you? Why would it benefit the world? And that's where the meat and potatoes of a YouTube ad exists, is making that connection. That's the biggest driver in conversion rates on YouTube, is just speaking directly here into the camera. So do you need all this crazy videography and video shoots that take multiple days and actors and all these scripts that are just way over engineered? You do not. At the end of that connection, where you're really just reaching out to that user and expressing your messaging, you want to direct them to take action. And then finally, at the end, you want to give them some time to really let that marinate. So you want to elongate your video towards the end, as opposed to, okay, click on this ad, and then your video ad stops, and then the next one starts. I don't know if you've ever used YouTube before, but it's really easy to get sucked down to the next video, the next video. So that ending part is pretty crucial here, and just giving them time to take that action, to click on that link. So again, takeaway here, to be able to run a YouTube ad, you mostly can just use me, just like I'm doing right here talking to you. You could use that same format, just making that connection, speaking into the camera, and you could have some photography that you could, as you're speaking, kind of slide through, and you could have some very light music. All this does not take a lot of production, and I'm sure you probably got a camera either on your mobile device or on your computer. It is a lot easier than you think to get started with YouTube. Now, there's a lot of ways to make this work, and a lot of ways to kind of set up your targeting. You kind of don't want to layer, as we mentioned on display, where you could have, okay, when did a user engage with me and what content are they looking at now? You, for the most part, don't want to do that so much on YouTube, because there's a little bit less volume. So you only want to layer once, try to YOLO. And then as far as consideration, you do have an audience size requirement of 1,000 users. That can be a pretty big threshold to hit, depending on, oh, I need 1,000 users to be on the third step of my application process, or whatever that threshold is for your engagement. So sometimes remarketing on YouTube can take a little bit more time to accrue those 1,000 users. Just a consideration, if you want to do remarketing, set up those audiences now. Again, on mobile apps, watch out for those. Around 3 minutes of video length is a good recommendation. Now, if your video is shorter than that, longer than that, the world does not end. It's just a general guideline. And then you do want to utilize a good title, thumbnail, and a link in the description, as that's going to be most relevant to the user. And then lastly, we have video users. You can really dial in here if a user's watched a certain video on your YouTube channel, or been to your YouTube channel, or engaged, liked, subscribed, things like that. You can target those users on YouTube, again, bringing them further and further down the funnel. So definitely a good, robust option here over on YouTube. I do have a little bit of a mini case study to share with you on how we have leveraged YouTube in the past to close that loophole. So in one particular case, the challenge was getting users to register to participate in a volunteer day. So what we did is we set up 2 different types of campaigns. One is a cold campaign, really generating that awareness. Hey, we have a volunteer day coming up. Here's why it helps your community. Here's what you can get out of it. And then a remarketing campaign that reinforces that messaging. Can you guess which one performed better? Well, this is about closing the donor loophole through Google Ads remarketing. So I'd be remiss if I didn't just demonstrate to you how much better remarketing did in this case study. This is specifically on YouTube, where to get users to volunteer, to register, on the cold side, it took a little over $110 to get them to register. On the remarketing side, that cost was around $39. So this was actually a pretty short flight, meaning it was a pretty quick campaign, where the longer the campaign, the more data, the more we can dial in and get these numbers down. So this was a pretty short-lived flight, but already the results should be apparent to everyone here. indicating that sure, you can get people to convert through cold YouTube ads, but remarketing is where the true better cost resided. So I'm going to take a mini detour here and just showing you the creative. So, I've got some critiques on this creative. The main thing is this creative worked much better on remarketing side than it did on the cold side. This particular brand did use different creative on the remarketing versus cold. So there's some things that I could critique, but really the results speak for themselves. Where sure, you could follow some best practices, but already not utilizing a lot of these best practices, we're seeing great results. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you this very quick video. So there's some things this ad did and did not do as far as best practice. Now, if you'll notice, what this ad did was it leveraged a lot of what we call B-roll. So at your next event is taking some video content and it simply just spliced that together with someone just talking you through what the messaging is, what the purpose of that ad was. That ad could definitely be longer. That ad could have utilized an actual human being talking to you, but you'll see that really no one had to go out and do a multi-day video shoot. We didn't have to have a crazy script. There wasn't some huge voice actor or some big paid music that we use. It pretty much just leveraged the content that that organization already had. And again, you can see the results here speak for themselves in terms of how effective just that 30-second video was. So continuing through here, we're going to talk lastly, we've spoken about display, we've spoken about YouTube, Google search, how to utilize Google search for your remarketing. The benefits of using Google search is you're going to be showing your message immediately. So it is a great direct response vehicle. You search for something on Google, you found what it is you're looking for, and you take that action. So you can also, in terms of search remarketing, just be top of mind. So if you want, you can trigger your ads where a user has actually already been exposed to you. And if they're searching for anything that's relevant at all to what your brand does, you can use that as a moment to show your ads again. So being top of mind, hey, they might have already engaged with our brand, but guess what? They're searching for something that's relevant. And let's keep on trying to drive that frequency and to move those users further down the funnel just by being top of mind, showing up on those search results. And then another good benefit here on Google search is being able to observe if someone is triggering your search ads by searching on google.com and they've also seen your YouTube ads, you know that your marketing is working. Where, okay, they saw that YouTube ad, but maybe that ad wasn't the one that drove them to convert. Maybe they needed to think about it, search on Google a little bit more, read the results, and boom, that's where your ad is there. So you absolutely want to capture that traffic. If a user is already engaged with you, and now they're at that bottom, that second to bottom stage where they're considering, okay, who should I donate my money or donate my time to? And there you are. So you do want to capitalize on someone who has maybe seen your YouTube ad and is now searching on Google for something that's relevant to what it is your organization does. Just looking at what a search ad looks like, these ads can be very robust. So you're going on Google, you're searching for a keyword, and those keywords are triggering an ad. There's a lot that an ad can include. It can include a map location, different links to other pages on your websites, different call outs to what it is that differentiates your organization, and some service types that you all offer or provide for the community. It can do a lot. It can be very robust. So definitely utilize all of what are called ad extensions on a search ad to really take advantage of the fact that someone is searching, they've been engaged with you before. Now is the time to really show them the information that they need to make that decision and take that click. So you're going to capture that awareness, moving them further down the funnel. You're going to be able to observe again when someone has searched or been exposed to your brand before. You can observe, hey, this is happening, and I'd like to bid just a little bit more for these users. Or you can create an and condition saying, all right, they have been exposed to me by a YouTube ad or they've gone to my website. Now they also must be searching for a keyword under this relevant theme in order to show my ad. So in that second instance where you're layering and creating that and condition, you could use very broad keywords that you wouldn't otherwise do. You wouldn't want to target just a general keyword on your search campaigns typically. But let's say you said, all right, if someone has engaged with my brand, now I can use such a general keyword and say, yeah, that's fine. They're already qualified for me going back to the who gets remarketing. They're already qualified to be a good investment. So let's take this opportunity and let's show them an ad to really move them further down the funnel. All right, so that's covering the three main channels on Google Ads to leverage for remarketing. Now, Google Ads actually just very recently in Google Marketing Live last Tuesday has announced 2 new campaign types that they're going to be launching. And we'll absolutely, the next time we have our summit day, very likely going to be talking about what are those campaign types. We'll probably show you some early results from our testing. But already there is a 4th campaign type that's seeing a lot of adaptation on the Google Ads platform, seeing some good results, but requires further testing. And the type of campaign that I'm referring to is Performance Max campaign. So this is a campaign where essentially you're feeding Google information about who should see your ads. There's a few different ways you can do that. And then when it comes to your ads, you're feeding it a search ad, a display ad, a video ad. What it's doing is it's understanding, okay, who should we show these ads to? And then depending on where that user is, if they're on Google search, if they're on YouTube, if they're browsing the internet, Google will decide which one of those creatives to show them an ad. So essentially, Performance Max is kind of like an all-in-one machine where it takes that creative, takes the targeting, and it figures it out for you. It's a bit of a black box in the sense that it's not really showing you, okay, are we showing these ads on display? Are these going to be search ads? It's not really exactly showing you, like it is in other campaigns, what specific audience is the one that's driving the good results. So that's what I say. That's what I mean when I say black box. Is it's really not giving you the clarity that other channels are. So it's a little bit harder to kind of dial in. So yeah, that can be a great thing if you're kind of looking for just like an all-in-one machine. But when it comes down to honing those results on Performance Max, it can be a little bit tougher to do so. Now, we are here talking about the context of Google Ads remarketing, and I'd be remiss if I didn't just mention that Performance Max is not a pure remarketing campaign type. What do I mean when I say that? Again, you're feeding Google the types of targeting, types of users you want it to go after. It's thinking, okay, let's understand that. So let's say you wanted to say, all right, Google, I only want you to look at these remarketing audiences from people who went to this web page on my website. Google's going to say, okay, sure, it may show ads to users who have been to that website, but what it is certainly also doing is it's saying, okay, I understand these characteristics about these users. Now let's show ads to other users who might not have been to the website, but they also exhibit these characteristics. So that's why I'm saying it's not a pure remarketing vehicle, because it's going to show your ads, even if you used a remarketing audience to say, hey, Google, target my ads based off of this audience. It's going to go expand that. It's going to show your ads to people who've never heard from you. And so that can be a little bit tougher to make the best connection with your creative to that targeting. So you want to be able to dive down and really have that control. So while it's a good kind of all-in-one campaign type, it's hard to get that control. It's hard to get that data that you need to improve your results even more. So interested to test out some of these new campaign types that Google's offering and see how they differ. Performance max is something to maybe consider, but just keep in mind it is not a pure remarketing campaign type. All right. So wrapping up here, you do want to, when you're running remarketing, just keep in mind a user can be exposed to your ad, but they might not always convert on that ad. They might, again, go over to search Google after they've seen a YouTube ad. So you do want to really keep that in mind, that you can have what's called view through conversions, where I saw this ad, but I converted through another ad. Or you can have what's called a cross device conversion, where they saw an ad on their phone, but they actually went to go convert on their desktop. So very common for remarketing. That's why you do want to be able to consider those angles. Great thing about Google, you can actually see when you're getting view through and cross device conversions. Then on the wrap up here, you want to set up, if you're not going to set up all of these audiences based off of duration and depth, just set up a, hey, any user who went to my website in the last 540 days. Set it and forget it. Let it build so when you're ready for remarketing, it's there and eligible. You want to focus your creative on how. So we've already gotten the what on the cold side for remarketing, focus on how. When you're having these users click on the landing page, you want to send them to a different experience that they've already been exposed to. Wherever possible, you want to layer your targeting. So I get it. If you've been to my website, that's great. But maybe in certain instances, you could say, not only did a user go to my website, but they're also engaging with content that's relevant to what my mission provides. That is a great time to strike. And then finally, to get the full use out of your Google Ads account, try to utilize more than one of these networks. So use remarketing not only on search, but on display and on YouTube. Find what is giving you the best return and dial that in. So don't just test one and say, hey, remarketing didn't work. Test a few of the different channels. We can help you vary the approach and really dial in to see what is the best allocation. How much should I be spending on cold users? And how much should I be spending on my remarketing? Because that answer is different from every organization. We can help you figure out the answer there. So, closing up here, if you'd like us to help explore the top remarketing strategies to drive donations, growth, volunteerism, feel free to book a remarketing strategy session. My name is Jake Stowers. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you all have a great rest of your ad day.
Awesome. Jake, thank you so much. I know we are just getting some of the technicalities here back up so Jake can help answer some questions, but that was a very dense, information packed session. So thank you so much, Jake. Show some love in the chat if this has helped you out. I know a lot of people, Catherine, Jennifer, Holly, Jeanette, and Charles, all definitely loved it, but we have 100 and almost 70, 180 people in here. Throw in some information that you loved, or if this was a great session for you, what was your favorite part about it? But we do have some questions that we want to get answered here. So Lauren Smith mentioned, are these audiences available in the ad grant, not just paid account? And I think
Yes.
that was said in the beginning of the presentation.
Yes, so remarketing on search is something you can utilize within your grant account. Here's the issue with that is volume. Sometimes you're not achieving so much volume to be able to say, okay, someone's already been exposed to my brand, been on my website, let's show them another ad. Because of the limitation with the ad grant, right? You're in a different auction and you have different bidding limitations. So if you are looking to leverage remarketing, you can certainly try it in your grant on the search side, but just set expectations that you're certainly not going to be maximizing your true capacity in terms of spend and volume. And that's why having a second paid account is a strategy that's utilized by a lot of our clients to be able to kind of take those restrictions that you're finding on the grant side, remove them entirely, and now you're competing with all the rest of the advertisers using the best practices that we have to provide.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I know we have other questions coming up. So Davis Foster asked, when creating a new landing page for a remarketing campaign, is it just a remix of, say, the donation page, but with new custom text or a completely different layout?
Yeah, as much of a different experience that you can curate, the better. So you want to leverage really the basics where, okay, here is just some bullet points about my organization, and here's my have been why you are interested. But ideally, a completely separate layout, sending them to a dedicated page is the takeaway.
Awesome. And I know Trisha also had a question. We have two more questions. I'm going to hope we can squeeze these in. Trisha said, how much do you show your hand in your messaging? For example, we noticed you checking us out.
Yeah, that will definitely. It doesn't really need to be said. You can just kind of go into the guise of, that they've been exposed to your advertising before. So just building off of that could be the takeaway here, where you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable by